Let me start with a story about a save that didn't actually happen and why that's the most important part of the story. If you're a fan of the Marvel films, like I am, you may have seen Avengers Endgame. There's a scene near the end of that movie that I think about a lot. The character of Steve Rogers, who is also known as Captain America and is played by Chris Evans, is sitting on a park bench. He's an old man at this point in the film, and he's lived a whole second life, a quiet one, a private one. His friend, the Falcon, real name Sam Wilson, walks up to him, sees that Steve Rogers has a wedding ring on, and asks a question that everybody watching the movie was wondering. Do you want to tell me about her? And at that moment, Steve Rogers smiles. He has this look of absolute grounded peace, and he says, no, I don't think I will. This is a meme that has made its way around the internet in a variety of different circumstances. But if you pull back to the movie and think about what he was saying in that moment, I think it reinforces something from a skill perspective that we are rapidly losing in 2026. Because in that scene, Steve Rogers understood something fundamental. If something is the bedrock of your joy or the center of your healing, it shouldn't actually matter who else knows. But today, we live in a world that tells us if it wasn't posted, it didn't happen. We've turned our vulnerability into a performance and privacy into a secondary thought. We are treating our lives like they are public property, and in the process, we are losing the very things that make a life worth living. We are trading our sacred moments for social currency, and as a lawyer who weighs value for a living, let me tell you, the exchange rate is terrible. That's why, when we come back, I'll be making the case for not oversharing online. Hello and welcome back. This is The Case For. I'm your host, Matt Campobasso. As you might know if you've listened to this podcast, I'm an attorney by day. I'm also a father of three. My day job is built on weighing evidence and managing risk and protecting assets. But today I want to talk about protecting the most valuable asset that you own, your personal narrative. So we're about 35 episodes into the podcast now, and I'm leaning more intentionally into what originally motivated this whole thing, which is using my legal training and my experience to make practical cases about real life. In my prior role at a company that was publicly traded on the New York Stock Exchange, I ran a team of 10 lawyers that were located around the globe. We spent our days worrying about information governance, making sure the company didn't keep data it didn't need, because unnecessary data is just an unnecessary liability. But then I might go home, hop on my phone, and see people who I consider smart and capable, doing the exact opposite with their personal lives. They were archiving their most raw and unrefined and painful moments for public consumption. They were creating a discovery trail for their future selves to trip over. Today's case is about the Wild West of the information age and why I think we need to stop using the internet as a substitute for actual human intimacy. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, the claim today is this: the internet is a bottomless cup. We have reached a point where we have fundamentally confused validation with connection. We have been told that being authentic means being public and that vulnerability is a transaction you perform for strangers to prove you're real. But I want to argue that seeking connection from an online community isn't real connection. It's a dopamine hit. It's a temporary fix for permanent hunger. We share something small, something irrelevant, or something deeply painful, and when the likes and the comments start rolling in, we feel important. We feel seen for 5 minutes or 20 minutes or maybe an hour. But then that dopamine hit passes and we need another one. We are perpetually trying to fill a hole in our hearts with views and shares, but those things are, by design, fleeting. They are not sustained or sustainable. They're not the same as being known. In my professional life, I see how data is collected and manipulated and used. In your personal life, your data, your stories, your struggles, your feelings, your family's moments, is being traded for a like that expires by morning. So with that, let's walk through the evidence piece by piece. Exhibit A is what I call the validation trap and the finite high. So downstream sharing feels like healing, but it's actually just anesthesia. Let's be honest about the anatomy of a vulnerable post. So you're sitting there at 11:47 p.m., you're feeling lonely or misunderstood or maybe bored, and you hit publish on a post that details a deeply personal struggle. And then that countdown starts. You check the notifications. 1 like, 10 likes, a comment from a stranger who says, "You're so brave." And in that moment, it feels like a connection. But let's take a step back and look at the shelf life of that feeling. Even a post that gets 100,000 likes or 50,000 shares only provides a sense of well-being for a defined period. Why? Because those people don't know you. They are reacting to a pixelated version of your pain. At my prior company, we talked about sustainable growth. And validation is not sustainable. It's a drug that requires a higher dose every time. Real connection requires a sustained relationship. It requires someone who knows your context, your history, and your flaws, and shows up for you anyway. Validation from the internet is a snack. It might taste good, but it leaves you hungry again in an hour. Real connection is a meal. It sustains you. When we overshare online, we're often trying to avoid the hard, quiet, upstream work of building offline intimacy. It's easier to tell 10,000 strangers you're sad than it is to sit across from one friend, look them in the eye, and admit you're struggling. Exhibit B, context collapse and the permanence of hearsay. In other words, I want to talk about the peril of the permanent record. As an attorney, I live in the world of discovery. Whether that's in a corporate in-house job or as a trial lawyer, every document, every email, every Slack message can be used to build a narrative against you. And the only defense to that is context. However, the internet is a machine designed to strip context away. It's what sociologists call context collapse. When you share something painful or dramatic online, you are handing a weapon to a world that does not understand the full story. The internet is undefeated at helping people take things out of context. They will read your post through the lens of their own bias. And remember, the internet is undefeated at being forever. That vulnerable post you made in a moment of emotional upheaval in 2026, it's a permanent record. In my experience, I've seen how old data comes back to haunt people. Post you made when you were hurting can be captured, clipped, and replayed 10 years from now when you're a completely different person. And the world will still hold you to that temporary version of yourself. At my last company, we were also obsessed with information governance. We reminded ourselves repeatedly that keeping unnecessary data created liability. So I have to ask, why aren't we applying that thinking in our own lives? Why are we creating a massive personal liability by archiving our most raw and unrefined moments for public consumption? Exhibit C, the ethics of others, or the privacy of the innocent. Oversharing is an invasion of privacy, and this is a big one for me as a father of 3. In the legal world, protecting the privacy of non-parties is a core principle. In social media, we ignore it constantly. When we share details about our partners, our children, and our friends to get that validation hit, we are invading their privacy for our own dopamine. We are making them characters in our drama without their consent. I think about my kids. I think about how much of their lives could be captured and clipped, misunderstood, and replayed forever before they're even old enough to understand what a digital footprint is. If you share a story about your child's struggle or a spouse's failure, you aren't being vulnerable. You are being a narrator of a story that is not entirely yours. You are creating a digital legacy for them that they might spend their adulthood trying to escape. At my prior company, we trained almost 1,300 people on issue spotting. That involved recognizing risk before it becomes a fire. Oversharing about your family is a massive risk. It creates a record that can be used to judge them, label them, or limit them before they even get started. So the next time you're about to share, apply the privacy test. Ask yourself, what does this accomplish for the people I'm sharing about? Then ask yourself, if they saw this in 10 years, would they feel respected? Finally, ask yourself if you're using their story to fill your own bottomless cup. Exhibit D, the information age, or what I'll call an unfinished experiment. This is about the data of decay. When you step back and you think about it, we are still in the first 2 decades of the information age in its current form. We are basically the guinea pig generation. We don't know the long-term impact on the human brain or the fabric of society. But as a professional who looks at data for a living, the current trends are concerning. This practice of constant oversharing is leading toward a culture where nothing is sacred and everything is a commodity. And when we share everything, we lose the upstream benefit of internal processing. If you're still sharing while you're in the middle of pain that you're feeling, you aren't learning from it, you're just broadcasting it. You're inviting the world into the construction site of your soul before the foundation's even poured. In my career, I never wanted legal to be the last stop when somebody was already in trouble. We wanted to be a resource upstream. Privacy is an upstream resource. It gives you the space to process, to heal, and to change without the pressure of an audience. Wait until the lesson is learned, then share the lesson, not the wreckage. So, as we do on this podcast, I want to turn to an objection or two. Let's see if we can pressure test the case I'm trying to make here today. Objection 1 might be, hey, Matt, vulnerability is strength. We need to share to help others. Here's my rebuttal. The difference between being authentic and being transparent are massive. You can be a deeply authentic person without telling everyone what you had for breakfast or which fight you just had with your partner. Authenticity is about who you are in the moment you are present. Transparency is about letting everyone see everything. You don't owe the world your trauma as the cost of admission for being a person. Sharing it with the public isn't vulnerability, it's exposure. If you want to help people, heal first, then share the story of healing. Don't bleed on people just to prove you have a heart. Objection 2, but I find my community online. These are my friends. So you've met great people online. And if they support you in your actual life, that's amazing. And I hear you. The internet can be a wonderful tool for finding your people, especially if you're in a struggle that feels lonely. But remember, a digital community is a supplement, not a substitute. When life gets truly loud, whether that's a death in the family, a job loss, a health crisis, an avatar on a screen cannot bring you soup. They will not hold your hand. If you find yourself relying only on the internet for validation, it's a sign that your upstream architecture is failing. We need to invest in our real-life neighbors, our friends, and our family, so we don't have to go looking for strangers to help us put out fires. Online community has value, but only if it points you back toward real-life connection. So here's where I want to land this case. Ladies and gentlemen, thinking upstream isn't just about productivity. It's also about privacy. It's about being an architect of your own inner life in this information age. It means asking why you're reaching for your phone before you do it, and about realizing that the internet is a bottomless cup that will never ever tell you that you're enough. The most important things in your life, those things that truly matter, should not need an audience. They should be enough on their own. If you're happy, enjoy it. You don't need to post a photo to prove it. If you're hurting, heal. You don't need 100 people commenting to validate it. Think back to Captain America. He could have told Falcon everything. He could have bragged about his life, his love, and his peace, but he didn't. He kept it for himself because he knew that telling the world would in some small way dilute the beauty of what he had built. So start thinking about redesigning your life slowly and on purpose. Stop trying to fill a bottomless cup. Start building a life that's so rich and so grounded in real-life relationships that the internet feels like what it actually is, a tool, not a home. Protect your story, protect your privacy, protect the people you love. Because if you don't have a part of your life that is just for you, then do you really have a life at all? Before we go, I want to make this practical. Here are tools that you can take out into the real world. The 24-hour draft rule, number 1. The next time you feel a surge of emotion, good or bad, and you want to post about it immediately, write it in your notes app instead, and leave it there for 24 hours. And the next day, if you think the world still really needs to see it, then maybe post it. But I would bet 90% of the time, you're going to be glad you kept it to yourself. Tool number 2, the inner circle text. When you have something that you really want to share, text it to your 3 closest friends instead of posting it. See if their responses fill your cup. If it does, you didn't need that post. You just needed to be known by people who really know you. Tool number 3, the information governance audit. Look at your last 5 posts on any network and ask yourself, what did this accomplish? Is the world better off because I added this? Am I better off? And if the answer to any of those is no, then follow the Captain America rule. No, I don't think I will. And finally, tool number 4, the parenting guardrail. The next time you're about to post a photo or a story about your child, ask, if they were 25 years old right now, would they want their boss to see this? If the answer is no, keep it in the family album. Before you go, I want to leave you with this. If you are always performing, you will always be tired. Take it from someone who performed for a really long time. The internet is a wild and loud and content collapsing machine. Don't feed it your soul. Save the best parts of your life for the people who are actually going to show up at your funeral. If this episode reached you or made you think about your own digital boundaries, I'd love for you to help me spread this message. Subscribe wherever you get your podcasts and tag your posts on social media with hashtag #TheCase4. And remember, whatever your case is, don't be afraid to build it, and then maybe just keep some of it for yourself. Thanks for listening.